The hallway lights flickered once before the entire building plunged into darkness. A mechanical clunk echoed through the walls. The emergency lockdown had triggered. Hannah gripped the cold stairwell railing, frozen mid-step. She wasn't supposed to be here. She'd come for an off-the-books delivery job. Now she was trapped inside an abandoned government safe house, and worse, she wasn't alone. A heavy metal door slammed shut behind her. Her flashlight clicked on with a faint buzz, revealing 4 others, equally stunned, faces pale in the dull beam. One was a lanky teenager with earbuds dangling from his collar. Another, a woman in a lab coat smeared with dust and ash. A tall man wearing tattered biker gear, arms crossed, leaned against the wall as if waiting for a reason to fight. And then, there was the quiet one, a bearded man in a plain hoodie, who said nothing but scanned everyone like he was cataloging weaknesses. "Anyone know what just happened?" Hannah asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The lab coat woman cleared her throat. "This facility went dark weeks ago. It's supposed to be off limits. If the security just locked us in, then something tripped the old system." "Yeah," the biker said. "Something. Or someone." There was a beat of silence. Then a deep growl echoed from below, unmistakable, low and hungry. "Zombies. Not a horde. Not yet. But they were inside. Somewhere." The teenager, Jake, he later introduced himself, started pacing. "Why would they lock down a place if the infected were already inside?" "Because it's not about keeping them out," said the man in the hoodie. "It's about keeping us in." Hannah's skin crawled. She didn't like being trapped with strangers, especially not now. Trust was a luxury, and she couldn't afford it. Not in dead America. They regrouped in a central hallway, a wide corridor lined with old lockers and sealed doors. Dust hung thick in the air. The facility was old, military perhaps, but modified. Reinforced. But even walls like these couldn't stop the dead forever. "What's your name?" Hannah asked the woman in the lab coat. "Dr. Aaron Voss," she replied quickly. "Biochemist. I used to work here, before the outbreak. We studied pathogen resistance, mostly. This place, it has sublevels. The kind of areas not shown on maps." "Of course it does," the biker scoffed. "Always something hidden underneath, right? And you?" Hannah turned to him. "Reed." "Just passing through," he said, flashing a cocky smile. "Till the dead showed up and the doors slammed shut." She gestured to the silent man in the hoodie. "What about him?" He looked up, eyes steely. "Call me Mason. Doesn't matter what I was. What matters is surviving this." Trust, Hannah thought again. Thin ice. The group agreed to search for a control room. If they could override the lockdown, they might be able to escape, or at least secure the upper floors. The air grew colder as they moved, flashlights bouncing shadows off the walls. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a signal. Then came the first scream. It wasn't loud, but it was close. Raw. Human. They sprinted toward it, only to find a door cracked open to a storage room. Inside was a man, pinned under fallen shelves. Blood seeped from a wound on his leg. He looked up in panic as the group entered. "Please," he rasped. They're coming." "We need to move him," Erin said, dropping to her knees. "No," Mason warned. "Look at his leg. The wound was deep, and near the ankle. Teeth marks." "Too late," Mason said coldly. "We leave him." "I'm not leaving anyone behind," Erin snapped. "We don't know him," Reed said. "He could turn any second." The man groaned again, eyes fluttering. I didn't get bit. It's just a scratch. A pipe. I swear." Hannah's instincts screamed at her. Was he lying? Or desperate? They had seconds to decide. The low growling was growing louder, this time from the hallway they came from. Reed pulled his bat free. "If he turns, I handle it." They dragged the wounded man, name, Owen, down the hall and into a locked medical room. It had reinforced glass and a secure latch. At least they could isolate him if he changed. They braced the hallway with furniture as best they could, forming a loose barricade. "We hold here tonight," Mason said. "First light, we search for a way out." Hannah nodded, but her gut twisted. She wasn't sure what was worse, the undead outside, or the strangers locked inside. One thing was certain, in a place like this, trust could kill you faster than any zombie ever could. The emergency lights buzzed to life just before dawn, casting the hallway in a sickly orange glow. The barricade still stood. No signs of an attack during the night. But no one had truly slept, either. Hannah sat with her back against the wall, her knife clenched tight in her hand. Every noise in the dark, every cough, shift, or breath, had set her on edge. She kept her eye on Owen, the injured man, who now lay unconscious in the medical room behind glass. His leg had swelled. He was sweating through his shirt. "He's burning up," Aaron said quietly, checking his vitals. "Could be fever. Could be infection. We still don't know if it's a bite or not." "We're wasting time," Mason growled. "We should have left him last night. He's a liability." "You mean he's human?" Aaron snapped. "You're just looking for a reason to get rid of people." Hannah stepped between them. "Enough. Everyone's tense, but we're not enemies." "Not yet." Reed chuckled, tossing a small metal ball between his hands. "Not yet, huh? Sounds like you're expecting betrayal." She didn't answer. Because she was. They met in the corridor to make a plan. Dr. Aaron believed the control room would be located on the lower level, sub-level 1. According to her, this area was supposed to be a fallback command post. Emergency power. Communication lines. Maybe even records of who had been here before the place fell. "There's an elevator shaft on the west wing," Aaron said. "The stairs are blocked, but we can use the emergency access ladder down the shaft." "And what if we run into company?" Jake asked. He was paler than before, his voice edged with fear. "We fight," Mason said simply. Reed nodded. "Or run." They armed themselves with what little they had. Reed carried a dented baseball bat wrapped in duct tape. Mason had a hunting knife, razor-sharp and well-maintained. Aaron clutched a crowbar with both hands. Jake had nothing. Hannah handed him a broken metal rod she'd found. Not much, but enough to buy time in a fight. Together, they crept down the western corridor. The building creaked and moaned with age. Strange stains marked the walls. And still, no sign of zombies. No sound. No movement. It was eerie, too quiet. When they reached the elevator doors, Hannah pried them open with the crowbar. A rusty ladder descended into the dark below. "I'll go first," she said. "You sure?" Reed asked. "Yeah. I need to see what we're walking into." Step by step, she climbed down. The ladder groaned under her weight. When her boots hit the ground, she aimed her flashlight around. The sublevel was colder. Dustier. A thick silence filled the space like fog. One by one, the others followed. As Jake climbed down, his foot slipped, metal scraped metal, and for a second, it sounded like a crash. But he caught himself. "I'm okay," he whispered. They pushed forward, moving through dark corridors lined with closed doors. Some had numbers. Others had strange red symbols painted on them. Aaron stared at one, her face pale. "What is it?" Hannah asked. "Nothing," Aaron lied. But Mason didn't buy it. "You've been holding back since the beginning." "I worked here. I saw things," she admitted. "Experiments. Not all of them were on the infected. Some were on people, volunteers at first, but later, not so much." Jake gasped. "You mean, they were testing the virus on people?" "Trying to find a cure," Aaron said. "Or a weapon. I don't know anymore." As they turned a corner, the sound of dragging feet echoed ahead. A figure stumbled into the hallway, tall, twitching, pale. Its mouth gaped open, and a wheezing snarl spilled out. A zombie. Mason moved first, stabbing deep into its chest. It didn't fall. The thing twisted and lunged, biting air where his arm had just been. Hannah tackled it from behind, slamming it into the wall. Reed followed up with a brutal swing of the bat. It collapsed. Jake stood frozen. That was fast. They move fast when they're fresh, Aaron said. That one wasn't dead long. They moved again, faster now. The control room had to be close. When they reached it, the door was already open. Inside, someone had beat them there. Monitors were smashed. Cables ripped out. Papers burned. Whoever did this didn't want the world knowing what went on here. And then came the worst part. Another door inside the room. Slightly ajar. Inside, a bunk. A duffel bag. Half-eaten food. Someone had been living here recently. We're not alone, Mason said. Then came a scream from upstairs. The med room. Owen, Aaron whispered. They'd left him alone. But who, or what, was with him now? The scream that echoed down the elevator shaft wasn't just pain, it was terror. Human terror. And that made it even worse. Hannah didn't hesitate. She was already on the ladder before anyone could stop her. Every rung she descended brought her closer to the fear clawing inside her chest. Owen was supposed to be secured. Alone. That scream meant someone else had been up there, or something. Reed climbed down fast after her, bat grip tight. Aaron and Mason followed. Jake hesitated at the top, glancing once into the dark sublevel they were leaving behind. Then he scrambled after them, nearly slipping again. When Hannah reached the top floor and climbed out, she heard something crash inside the med room. The reinforced glass had been smeared red. Not shattered, smeared. She approached slowly, keeping her body low, knife ready. Inside, Owen was gone. The bed where he had laid was overturned. The medical cabinet had been ripped open. A trail of blood led from the cot to the door, and ended in the hallway, just outside. He didn't break the glass, Aaron whispered behind her. Someone opened the door. Who would do that? Jake asked. We locked it. Mason's voice was calm, too calm. Either someone let him out, or someone never wanted him in there. Reed's eyes narrowed. You saying one of us did this? I'm saying one of us could've, Mason replied. A distant thud came from the east wing. They followed the trail, past broken lockers and shattered tile. The trail of blood grew thinner. And then, it just stopped. Gone. As if he vanished. Or something took him. Then, from behind them, came footsteps. Too fast to be human. Too light to be safe. They spun just as Owen burst out of a side corridor. His skin had turned gray, his eyes clouded with a milky glaze. He shrieked, a sound that barely resembled the man they had dragged to safety hours before. He charged. Reed swung. The bat cracked against Owen's skull, sending him crashing against the wall. He didn't stay down. He snapped his head back up, drooling, snarling. Hannah moved in with her knife. It took 3 solid stabs, neck, temple, chest, before Owen stopped twitching. She backed away, breathing hard, staring at what was left of him. He turned, Aaron whispered, horrified. Jake was trembling. He said it wasn't a bite. Maybe it wasn't, Mason muttered. But he still died, and the infection took over. Means it's not just about bites. Maybe it's blood. Maybe air. We don't know. Then none of us are safe, Jake said. No, Hannah replied quietly. We're not. They wrapped Owen's body in a tarp and dragged it into an old utility closet. It wasn't about respect, it was about safety. No one wanted to see what would happen if another infected corpse started twitching again. Afterward, the group sat in silence in the hallway, back near their barricade. Reed broke the quiet first. Someone opened that door. Don't tell me it was an accident. Maybe it glitched, Aaron offered weakly. The building's old. Jake shook his head. That lock was manual. I watched Mason seal it. Everyone turned to Mason. He stared back, unmoved. I did lock it. Then someone unlocked it, Hannah said. That scream wasn't the sound of someone turning quietly. It was someone being ambushed. Silence stretched between them again. Say it, Mason said finally. You think it was me? No, Hannah said, eyes fixed on him. But I don't trust any of you anymore. Aaron looked pained. This is exactly what they wanted. Whoever ran this place, they built it to make people doubt each other. And it's working, Jake said under his breath. Suddenly, the lights above flickered. Once. Twice. And then went black. A low mechanical groan echoed through the halls. Then a new sound, metal scraping on metal. Doors unlocking. Somewhere far off, a siren blared once. Then stopped. Aaron stood up slowly. That came from sublevel 2. That's where the isolation labs are. I thought we were already in the deepest level, Jake said. We weren't, Aaron replied. That was the monitoring floor. Below that is where they kept subjects that weren't stable. What do you mean, subjects? Reed asked. I mean, they weren't all infected. Some were something else. Like what? Hannah asked. But Aaron didn't answer. Because the next sound was a scream. Not from a person. Not from something dead, either. It was deep. Inhuman. Echoing from below. I don't like the sound of that, Reed whispered. We need to move, Mason said, standing. Back down the shaft. Find what's happening. Before it finds us. No, Hannah said. Not until we know who we're standing next to. Because the zombies weren't the only danger in this building. Someone had let one in already. The siren's echo had barely died before the silence returned, thick, choking, and unnatural. Hannah stood frozen, her hand tight around the grip of her knife. Everyone else was staring at Aaron now. You said sublevel 2 was off limits, Reed said, voice low. You also said this building was shut down. Now you're saying there are unstable test subjects below us? Aaron didn't flinch. I said what I had to. You wouldn't have come with me otherwise. Jake backed away. What the hell were you trying to do? Lead us to some experiment gone wrong? No, she snapped. I'm trying to survive. Just like the rest of you. Mason stepped forward. You're hiding something. If we're going down there, you'd better tell us everything. Aaron hesitated. Then she exhaled sharply, voice shaking for the first time. Sublevel 2 wasn't just a lab. It was a containment zone for infected variants. We didn't fully understand them, some showed partial intelligence. One was communicating. Jake looked horrified. With who? We don't know. But it mimicked voices. Learned patterns. Could pretend to be human, for short bursts. So what, Reed said, you're telling us there's a zombie actor down there? No, Hannah said. She's saying there's something worse than a zombie. Something smart. Another distant scrape echoed through the stairwell. Hannah turned toward the elevator shaft. Whatever triggered the lockdown, whatever's moving down there, it isn't a mindless biter. It's watching. They argued about whether to stay or go. Staying meant waiting to die. Going meant walking straight into something unknown. But in the end, they had no choice. If the power grid was failing, then eventually the magnetic locks would too. The infected on the outside would get in, and there'd be nowhere left to hide. They gathered what little gear they had and returned to the shaft. As they descended into sublevel 2, the air turned thick and damp. The flashlight beams barely cut through the mist curling near the floor. Walls were concrete, and everything smelled like old chemicals and mold. At the bottom, the floor opened into a wide corridor, lined with observation rooms, some with glass intact, others shattered inward. Jake shivered. "I hate this place." Reed whispered, "You're not the only one." They crept deeper into the sublevel, shoes quiet against the cold floor. The rooms were marked by numbers and code names. Most were empty, but one had a single word smeared in red paint across the inside wall. Copy. Inside, the cot was overturned, the chains broken. The door was open. "This was cell 12, Aaron said. That's where the mimic was kept. It had no heartbeat, no decay, but it still infected others. We don't know how." "Wait," Hannah said, her voice tight. "How do you kill something like that?" "We don't know," Aaron replied. "That's why it was locked away." Mason had seen enough. "We moved to the server room. Pull data, override the lockdown, and leave. I don't care what this thing is, we're not sticking around to name it." They moved fast now, ducking past broken doors and shattered lights. In one corridor, they found signs of a struggle, blood smeared across the wall, a handprint, and a torn boot with no foot inside. Then came the whisper. It wasn't loud. Barely audible. But it was enough. "Help, please." Hannah froze. The voice was coming from the next room. She peered in, and saw a woman huddled in the corner, face buried in her knees, rocking gently. "Hey," Hannah said, stepping in carefully. "We're not here to hurt you." The woman lifted her head. It was Aaron. "Aaron?" Hannah breathed. But Aaron was behind her, in the hallway. Hannah's blood ran cold. "Get out!" Aaron screamed. The mimic turned. Its eyes were white, dead. Its mouth twitched into a mockery of a smile. "Please," it said in Aaron's voice. "Don't leave me. I'm scared." Mason yanked Hannah back just as the mimic lunged. It slammed against the glass, snarling now, face contorting. Its skin rippled, like it hadn't fully settled into its shape. It wasn't just pretending to be Aaron. It had watched her. Studied her. "Run!" Reed yelled. They fled down the corridor as alarms blared again, lights flashing red. The mimic gave chase, its footsteps pounding behind them, then vanished just as quickly as it had appeared. They ducked into the server room and slammed the door shut. It locked behind them with a magnetic hiss. Jake slid down the wall, gasping. "What the hell is that thing?" "Whatever it is," Mason said, eyes scanning the room, it knew what to look like. It knew her voice. Her face. "It's not just mimicking sounds," Hannah added. "It's hunting emotions. Picking the most vulnerable." They were trapped again, deeper this time. The infected above. The mimic below. And now, it knew their names. The server room was dimly lit, the glow from monitors flickering like dying candles. Thick glass surrounded the space, reinforced and locked with a magnetic seal. For the moment, they were safe, but no one felt secure. Outside the glass, the corridor was silent. The mimic had disappeared as quickly as it had arrived. But Hannah knew it wasn't gone. It was waiting. Mason paced the room while Aaron slid into the server chair, typing furiously. "We need to override the lockdown," she said. "If I can restore the backup protocols, I might be able to get control of the facility's main systems. That includes security doors, and hopefully the rooftop helipad." "Helipad?" Jake perked up. Aaron nodded. There was a small evac team assigned to this location. If they left a chopper behind, it might be our only way out. Reed grunted. "If it still works. And if that thing outside doesn't get to us first." "Don't remind me," Jake muttered, staring at the glass. Hannah moved to the far end of the room and checked the weapon stash, an emergency locker mounted in the wall. Inside were 2 small pistols, a half-empty box of rounds, and a combat knife. She tossed a pistol to Mason, who caught it with one hand. "What do we do if it gets in?" she asked. Mason chambered a round. "We make damn sure it regrets it." The computer buzzed. I'm in, Aaron announced. Power's unstable, but I've got partial access to system files. Check security feeds, Hannah said. I want eyes on everything. Aaron nodded and tapped through the interface. Footage flickered to life, most of it grainy and half-corrupted. The screens showed empty corridors, the barricade on the first floor, and the elevator shaft. Then, one screen glitched. A new image appeared. It was them. In the server room. On screen, they were just sitting there. But something was off. There's no camera in this room, Reed said. Is there? No, Aaron whispered. On the monitor, Aaron stood up and walked toward the glass, smiling. What the hell? Jake backed away from the screen. Hannah squinted. That's not us. That's it. The mimic was pretending again. It had created a perfect illusion of their group, mimicking mannerisms, posture, even small details, like Jake's nervous hand twitch or the tear in Mason's sleeve. The mimic's version of Hannah turned to the camera, its face deadpan. Then it winked. Jake stepped back. It's watching us through the cameras. It's not just smart. It's taunting us. Mason stormed over to the console. Cut the feeds. Now. Aaron did. The screens went black. No one spoke for a full minute. Finally, Hannah broke the silence. If it can mimic us that well, how do we know it hasn't already? Reed looked around the room, voice tight. You think one of us isn't who we say we are? Hannah didn't answer. She didn't have to. Jake paled. No, no way. I've been with you since the beginning. That's what you'd say if you were trying to blend in, Mason said coldly. Stop it, Aaron snapped. We'll tear ourselves apart before that thing even makes a move. She turned back to the computer. I'm locating the helipad access. It's on the rooftop, 3 floors up. But the elevators are dead. We'll have to take the maintenance tunnels. Hannah nodded. Then we move fast and quiet. Stick together. If anyone disappears, we don't wait. A sudden sound echoed in the vent above them, like something dragging metal fingers across the ducts. Everyone looked up. It's in the air system, Reed whispered. It's listening. Aaron grabbed a small data drive and slammed it into the port. I'm downloading what I can from the servers. Research logs, audio files, clearance codes. If we make it out, the world has to know what was done down here. Mason nodded. If we make it. They left the server room as one unit, moving carefully through the hallway. The air was thicker now, warmer, like breath on their necks. Every creak, every pipe hiss felt alive. As they turned a corner, they found a hallway blocked by fallen debris. Jake pointed. There's a side route. Goes past the observation deck. Too exposed, Hannah said. It's that or climb over the wreckage, Reed argued. We'll go around, Aaron decided. The side hallway was long and narrow, lined with viewing windows. Most were smashed, and beyond them were more empty cells. But one room still had lights on. Inside, a figure stood. Not moving. Not breathing. Just watching. It looked like Mason. Jake choked. He's here. Mason turned, furious. No, I'm here. That's not me. The mimic inside the cell stepped forward slowly, placing its hand on the glass. Then it spoke. Which one of you, it hissed, wants to be me next? For a full 5 seconds, no one breathed. The mimic's voice hung in the air like a trap, coiling into every mind and planting doubt like a seed. It didn't just sound like Mason. It was his voice, same pitch, same rhythm, same tone. The only difference was that it came from behind reinforced glass, with no visible emotion behind the words. Back away, Hannah ordered quietly, her blade rising slightly. Mason took a step back from the group, face hard. You don't seriously think that's me, right? Jake's voice cracked. How do we know? I mean, how do we really know? Mason stared at him. You were with me the whole damn time. You saw me kill that thing upstairs. It could have switched, Jake stammered. When we lost power, when the lights went out, it could have gotten in. Copied you. Replaced you. Shut up. Reed barked. You're panicking again. No, he's right to ask, Aaron said. We have to be sure. We've already seen it mimic Aaron. If it's figured out how to fully replace someone, then anyone could be next, Hannah finished. Mason raised both hands, stepping slowly toward the center of the hallway. I'm not a damn mimic. You want proof? Ask me something only I'd know. Not good enough, Aaron said. It copies memory. Personality. You think it learned how to mimic voices by accident? Then what do you suggest? Mason snapped. Blood test? Group therapy? Jake swallowed. What if we lock him up, just until we're clear? Try it, Mason growled, and you'll find out I'm definitely still human. Before things could spiral further, a loud metallic clang echoed from the far end of the corridor. Everyone jumped. That didn't come from the mimic, Reed whispered. No, Hannah said. That came from the tunnels. They moved fast again, this time without another word. The confrontation with the mimic Mason was left behind, its dead eyes watching them as they fled the hallway. The light above itself flickered one final time before vanishing into darkness. The maintenance tunnels were narrow and old. Rusted ladders and pipes lined the walls, and the floor was slick with condensation and grime. As they descended into a lower shaft that would connect to the rooftop stairwell, Hannah took point. Aaron followed with the data drive clutched tight in one hand. They climbed in silence, until the silence broke itself. It started as whispering. Not in one place, but everywhere. Faint murmurs floated from the vents above, the ducts beside them, even from the grates beneath their boots. The voices changed, sometimes male, sometimes female, sometimes their own. Aaron paused. This isn't possible. Jake clutched his ears. Make it stop. One whisper, clearer than the rest, cut through the noise. It was Hannah's voice. You're the only one who won't survive, it said. She gritted her teeth. Ignore it. Keep moving. But the damage had already been done. Fear was creeping in again, crawling through cracks in their resolve like smoke. At the end of the tunnel, the path split. Left, a sealed stairwell that might lead to the roof. Right, a long hallway, flickering red emergency lights guiding the way. Reed cursed. We need the roof. Let's hope that door opens. Mason tried the keypad on the stairwell. Dead. Jake glanced down the hallway. What if there's a manual override that way? No, Hannah said. It's bait. We don't have time, Aaron said. If we wait too long, the whole system could go offline completely. I'll go, Jake said suddenly. I'll check it. Not alone, Reed said. We go together, fast and quiet. Mason growled. Or we split up, 2 and 2. Cover both ends. Hannah hesitated. She didn't want to split up. Not down here. Not when one wrong turn could mean the mimic taking another face. Still, they had no choice. Me and Mason take the override, she said. The rest of you guard the stairwell. If we're not back in 10 minutes, open that door however you can. Jake looked uneasy. And if it comes for us? Shoot first, Mason said. Ask questions never. They split. As Hannah and Mason moved through the hallway, every shadow looked alive. Every flickering light felt like a warning. Then came the hum of electronics, and the override panel. Cover me, Hannah said. As she worked, Mason kept watch. Then came a whisper. Hannah, it said, soft as breath. She turned. It was herself, standing 10 feet away, knife in hand, eyes empty. She froze. The mimic hadn't chosen Mason this time. It had chosen her. Hannah stared at her own face, distorted in its lack of soul. The mimic stood still, knife clutched in a mirror of her own grip. It didn't blink. It didn't breathe. It just smiled faintly, like it was amused. Behind her, Mason hissed, "Don't move." "I'm not," she whispered, heart pounding like a war drum. The mimic tilted its head, slowly, its movement off by just enough to send a shiver down Hannah's spine. It didn't speak, just stared at her like a hunter memorizing its prey. Then, in her exact voice, it spoke. "Which one of us do you think is more real?" Mason raised his gun. "Say the word and I'll drop it." "No," Hannah said quickly. "That's what it wants. If it mimicked me this closely, shooting the wrong one would destroy everything." Mason hesitated, barrel twitching slightly between the two. "Ask it something," he muttered. "Something only you would know." "No time," Hannah said. "It could guess. It's been watching me, learning. It's not just copying how I talk, it's copying how I think." The mimic smiled wider. Then it charged. Hannah dropped, rolled, and Mason fired. The mimic slammed into the wall behind her, body twitching unnaturally as it scrambled back to its feet. It didn't bleed. It didn't cry out. It just turned and vanished into the corridor like smoke blown by the wind. Mason helped her up. "That was too close." "It's trying to divide us," she said, brushing blood off her sleeve. "Wearing our faces, copying our voices. It doesn't want to kill us fast, it wants to destroy trust." Mason checked the hallway. "Override?" "Almost done," Hannah said, returning to the console. "Just keep watch." Meanwhile, back at the stairwell, Reed paced while Aaron watched the shadows. Jake stood near the locked door, pistol shaking in his hands. Then Aaron froze. Jake was humming. A soft, off-key version of a song none of them had heard since they got inside. "Jake," she said carefully. "What, are you humming?" He looked up. Confused. "Nothing." "You were." "Just now." Reed narrowed his eyes. "I didn't hear anything." Aaron didn't look away. "There's no way to know, Reed." "Not anymore." Jake's face fell. "You think it's me now? That I'm the thing?" "I'm not accusing you," she said. "I'm just asking questions." "We have to." Reed stepped forward. "Let's calm down. Nobody's doing anything stupid." "I'm not a mimic," Jake said, eyes darting. "I swear it." Then came a sound from the darkness, like footsteps. "Running." A voice echoed down the hall. "Aaron? Reed? Jake?" "It's me, Hannah." Reed raised his rifle. Aaron's voice trembled. "She wouldn't yell like that." Jake started toward the sound. "We have to be sure." Aaron grabbed his arm. "Don't. It's trying to lure us out." The footsteps grew louder. Closer. Then, around the corner, Hannah appeared, smeared with dirt, out of breath. "It's me," she gasped. "The mimic's behind me, help me." Reed didn't lower the gun. "What did you say to me when we first entered the sublevel?" She froze. "What?" "The first thing," he said. "Your exact words." I don't remember." "Wrong answer." Aaron fired first. The mimic dropped to the ground with an unnatural shriek, body twisting as its skin began to shift, muscles bubbling beneath the surface. It wasn't Hannah. It had never been Hannah. Jake turned away, gagging. Reed cursed under his breath. "We're running out of time." Moments later, the door hissed open, Hannah and Mason had returned. The real Hannah. Aaron didn't lower her weapon. "We've already had a visitor," she said coldly. "Wasn't me," Hannah said quickly. "It chased us. Wore my face." "We handled it," Reed said, stepping aside. They moved up the stairwell fast. The air grew colder, thinner. Each step felt like climbing toward hope, or a trap. The rooftop wasn't far now. But as they reached the top landing, they froze. The final security door was open. And in the doorway stood Jake. No blood. No wounds. Just standing there. But Jake had never left. Erin turned. Jake was still beside her. There were two of them. The one on the rooftop smiled. Took you long enough. For a moment, no one moved. The real Jake stood frozen near the stairwell door, wide-eyed. The other Jake, the one on the rooftop, smiled calmly, like a shadow welcoming them home. What is that?" the real Jake whispered. Hannah raised her weapon, her eyes locked on the doppelganger. "The better question is, why hasn't it attacked yet?" The mimic Jake just chuckled. "Because I don't need to. You're already tearing each other apart." Mason stepped in front of Erin and Reed, placing himself between the group and the threat. "Then this ends now." The mimic took a slow step forward. "Careful. One bullet in the wrong place, and you lose your ride off this rooftop." They all looked past the figure. At the far end of the helipad sat a small two-seater helicopter, covered in dust and netting, but seemingly intact. A fuel canister lay nearby, half-drained. "That chopper runs," Mason whispered. "I'd bet my life on it." "You may have to," Hannah muttered. The mimic stretched its arms as if it were Jake relaxing after a long nap. "I've watched you. Learned you. You think survival is about bullets and barricades. It's not. It's about belief. If you can't trust the person beside you, you're already dead." Then it lunged. Gunfire erupted. Hannah and Reed fired in tandem, bullets shredding into the mimic's torso. But it didn't stop, it accelerated. Its form twisted mid-charge, shedding Jake's features in favor of something worse. Bones stretched unnaturally. Its eyes went hollow. Mouth wide and unhinged. Mason tackled it to the ground, both of them crashing onto the helipad. "Get Tio the chopper," he shouted. Erin didn't hesitate. She sprinted to the helicopter, yanking off the tarp and jumping into the pilot's seat. Jake stumbled, too shocked to move. Reed grabbed him. "Let's go." The mimic thrashed under Mason, striking him across the face with claws it hadn't had a moment earlier. Blood sprayed, but Mason didn't let go. He reached for the fuel canister nearby, dragging it closer. "You want to copy us?" he snarled. "Copy this." He smashed the nozzle open and let the fuel pour over both of them. Then he struck the emergency flare clip to his vest. Flames exploded upward. The mimic screamed, not a sound of pain, but rage, the sound of a predator losing its prey. Its skin boiled, form unraveling like smoke caught in a whirlwind. "Mason!" Hannah screamed. He didn't look back. "Go!" Erin had the engine humming. "We're airborne in 10 seconds. Hannah dragged Jake into the chopper. Reed leapt in next. The rooftop pulsed with heat as the mimic's body twisted and thrashed inside the inferno. Erin lifted off. The helicopter shuddered but caught wind. As they rose, the roof below lit up in a fiery circle. Mason stood at the center, a silhouette against the flames, not flinching even as the mimic's form collapsed beside him. The building shrank beneath them. Smoke spiraled into the sky. Hannah stared out the open door, the wind tearing at her hair. She didn't cry, but something inside her cracked. Reed placed a hand on her shoulder. He knew the cost. Jake finally found his voice. "Are we safe?" Erin didn't answer right away. Then she glanced over her shoulder. "For now." The helicopter pushed eastward, the sun beginning to rise on the far edge of the ruined city. Fires still burned in distant towers. Sirens were long gone. The dead roamed below, aimless, hunting sounds and shadows. But for the first time in days, the group had air beneath them, in a direction. Hannah leaned forward. "What was that thing?" "A weapon," Erin said. "An experiment that adapted too well." "Did you get the data?" Reed asked. Erin pulled the drive from her coat pocket. "Everything the servers had. If there's any hope of stopping more of them, it's in here." Jake looked back at the city. "And what if there are more?" Everyone went quiet. Then Hannah said softly, then we do what Mason did. We fight. We burn it to the ground if we have to. They flew in silence, exhaustion creeping in now that the immediate threat was behind them. But no one fully relaxed. No one closed their eyes. Because the mimic had said something none of them would forget. You're already tearing each other apart. And what if that was its true legacy? What if it didn't need to survive? What if it just needed to plant the seed of doubt, deep enough that it never left? As the sun rose over the desolate world, the survivors pressed on, scarred but alive, carrying the burden of those they'd lost and the haunting truth that, in this new age, trust might be the rarest thing of all.